It's funny. People always be like, don't forget about the little people. It's like, why do they refer themselves as little anyway, you know? Why don't you just get big with me? Feel me? They can see it in my eyes.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another bonus episode of John's Entitled Podcast, a partner of MoshPitNation.com. As I said I was going to start doing, I'm going to start putting out extra episodes each week to kind of get rid of some of the clutter, per se, of just all these extra chats sitting on my hard drive. And the first chat is going to be with Skye Sweetnam of Sumo Cyco. This was done when the band were enjoying a sold-out show at the Machine Shop in Flint, Michigan on the Kings and Queens tour, which they were doing and still are for a couple more days with Nonpoint and Butcher Babies and the recently added Islander. Skye couldn't have been any nicer. She gave me about 35-40 minutes of her time before having to go back and deal with the whole sound check and load in and all that kind of fun stuff of being on the road. We get into a lot of fun things, talking about any of the wisdom that some of the harder touring bands that they have been fortunate enough to go tour with in this past year. Speaking to Nonpoint, Fozzy, anything that Chris Jericho maybe imparted on her or the band, given the fact that he not only is in the entertainment of being a frontman for a rock band, but as well as being an entertainer in front of thousands and thousands of people, being a professional wrestler. I don't know if that's anything anyone else has really thought of, but just the fact that, I'm sure he's able to bring a lot to the table that maybe people haven't thought of because of his normal job, his day job, the thing he's most known for at this point. To even wondering if maybe the ladies and Butcher Babies between Heidi and Carla maybe bestowed some wisdom that they've gained over the years of being, women in a hard rock touring band, and just kind of the common camaraderie of the scene, and kind of just what maybe Skye has gone through over the years of being a woman in this musical scene, and as well as just kind of getting into the interesting stage outfits and what it means to be an independent band and have pride in being an independent band in 2018 and doing all the things that they've been doing over the handful of years, and so much more. And I really want to thank Skye for taking the time to chat with me. And as I have been saying I am going to do, I want to try to keep these intros and outros a lot shorter for you to get right into the meat and potatoes of the interviews themselves. So without further ado, this is my conversation with Skye Sweetnam of Sumo Cyco. I have the pleasure of speaking with Skye Sweetnam of Sumo Cyco, who are currently out on the Kings and Queens tour with Butcher Babies, Nonpoint, and recently added to the bill, Islander. How are you doing today, Skye?
I'm excellent. Thanks for having me, John.
Oh, not a problem. You're actually here in Michigan. You're at Flint at the Machine Shop for a sold-out show. How does that feel?
Oh, yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I love this venue. I've actually traveled here from Canada before to see shows, and bands don't come all the way to Toronto. So I love this place, and it's great to be back and with awesome bands and a sold-out show to boot. So we're good.
Did you get your photo, the photo that everyone gets to take in front of the wall of pictures?
We will definitely do that once we're all in our stage clothes, and okay. I've dolled myself up. We will.
So how has the tour been going so far? I mean, you're about at the halfway point so far.
Yeah, well, the tour's been great. We've known Nonpoint and Butchers from previous tours out in Europe and UK, so it's kind of cool. We didn't have to be like the new kids that come into high school that don't know if like the bigger bands are going to like them. So we already had some rapport with them, which was great. And then, so the shows have been great. Fans have been super receptive to us, which is always, on our minds when you're playing first in a bill where a lot of the people we're getting exposed to we don't know yet. But the response has been real great.
That's awesome to hear. I saw you guys did a one-off headliner with Nonpoint down at Battle Creek at the Music Factory. So it seems like you're kind of getting a very good Michigan dates heavy on this this tour. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, kind of speaking of some of the touring that you all collectively have been doing for the last like half year or so, you've gotten to tour with some really veterans of the road between you now out now with Nonpoint and Butcher Babies, and you did a tour a little bit ago with Fozzy. So, what's it kind of been like being able to tour with some of these bands? And are you guys the kind of band that like asks for like advice and stuff on just kind of how to maintain a long career and so forth, or how has that been?
Yeah, well, working with all the different bands has been very interesting, and especially that you mentioned Fozzy having like a career that was completely in wrestling, and then his segue into doing music and stuff. It's been cool chatting with him, and he also was born in Winnipeg, so another Canadian. But yeah, I mean, the guys are always picking all the other musicians' brains for gear and drumming, but yeah, it's like. Chase, the drummer of the Butcher Babies, has been giving our drummer Trozy, like, they've been hanging out and just doing like all the drummer stuff, I guess, learning paradiddles and paradiddles, whatever they call it.
Right.
Yeah, so that's cool. And what's been great is like a lot of the bands that we've had the pleasure of touring with have been really, really cool to us. And yeah, it's can't complain when you get to meet new people and get exposed to their fan base. So.
Yeah, kind of interesting. I don't think I really would have thought of this until you just were talking about, touring with Chris. But as a front woman, Chris is in the world of wrestling and so forth, and obviously an entertainer on a completely different realm, but that translates to the stage very, very easily. Was there ever anything that he maybe specifically told you, like, oh, from wrestling, I've learned and incorporated this into what I do in Fozzy that, like, maybe you wouldn't have thought of?
The one thing that we've totally stolen from Chris Jericho is he just does the hand to the ear without actually asking the crowd to cheer. Right. He just puts his hand to his ear, and ever since then I've been doing that. And you just stand there and wait, and they'll just keep getting louder and louder. It's like the magical symbol to. And oh yeah, so sorry, Matt, my guitar player said something else that we. Oh yeah, so. Yeah, we played with them in a festival once with the Darkness.
Okay.
And so Chris carried the lead singer of the Darkness around the entire venue on his shoulders, and ever since then I've been jumping on the guitar player's shoulders.
That's awesome.
And going around the venue. So yeah, we owe Chris a few props for some of the ideas there. But yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, it seems like. I've noticed from following the band's socials and more specifically yours in the last couple of about a week or so leading up to this chat, you have an affinity for interesting stage attire, and I got to say it's kind of refreshing when I saw that to see. I'm not going to say like a lack of a typical stage outfit that you see the person wearing night in and night out. Like when you see photos from the tour, it's like, those are your stage clothes, like your 3 outfits. It seems like you have just such an array of things. So, I kind of want to know how long, like, have you always been, doing that? And is that something that you've always had a kind of a passion for, I guess, is clothing and kind of being fun with the stage outfits?
Yeah, well, I've collected a lot over the years. We do all of our own music videos and stuff, so a lot of the clothes that I wear on stage are actually from our music videos or made an appearance in one of them. And for each music video, I usually get a new kind of cool outfit and then bring that with me on the tour. A lot of them are like Halloween costumes that I've kind of redone for stage. But yeah, I even sew a little bit so I can make my own clothes sometimes. And yeah, I'm just, because I started out in musical theater when I was really young, so I really like the theatrics. I like basically putting on more than just, the audio experience of hearing a band live in the room. I like to make sure that when they come to the show, it's a visual experience as well. So if I had my way, it'd be like, Rob Zombie up in here. We'd have like a million props and, pyrotechnics and the whole bit. We can't afford that right now, but eventually we'll get there. So yeah, it's for us. It's like it's about putting on the show, And I think that the stage outfits is not only something that people can like look forward to as be like, okay, what you going to pull out tonight, but just adds to me to add a presence to say like, hey, I'm here and look at me.
Right. Have you seen anyone recreate any of the outfits that come out to see you?
Yeah, no, actually, one of the first outfits I did was like a nurse, and I had a few fans show up wearing the nurse outfit. I also did like a prisoner's outfit. With our band, we kind of have this thing with this place called Cyco City, and so I put on the back that it was like I was from Cyco City Sanitarium, and then another fan came with the same thing on his back in an orange suit. So yeah, we slowly kind of build a little bit of a world, more so than just, like I said, the music. We're into the art, the videos, the experience. It's more immersive than just a typical like band. I like to think.
Yeah, no, it totally seems like it. And, I think that was, as I was kind of checking everything out, one of the things that I kind of thought was interesting, because very much it is sort of a Rob Zombie kind of thing, like with the costume changes and so forth. And it kind of made me, that was actually going to be a question I asked, is like, do you see yourself eventually kind of incorporating that more into a stage show with the outfits and so forth? But it seems like that's definitely a direction you want to take it when you're able to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're getting closer overseas. We've done a lot of touring over there, which has been really great. We just came off a headline tour right before we started this one. So, we're slowly building the army of psychos, we call them, until we can get to the point where we can pull out all the stops that we want.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I know, and I always try to have a lot of female guests on here as much as I can, but unfortunately with it being kind of a music-based thing, there really aren't. There are a lot, but there just aren't a lot that I've been able to get on. Like I had Lauren Cashin from Sharptooth come on a little while ago, and we got into this conversation about how, from my perspective as a man that goes to a lot of shows and is into heavy music and so forth, it seems like the whole, oh, you're really good for, a female in this. It doesn't seem like that's as prevalent as it used to be, but I've kind of wondered, now with, like, you're out with Butcher Babies. My wife just actually went and saw the In This Moment, Hailstorm, New Year's Day, and someone else, Stitched Up Heart tour. So, I mean, it's like there's a lot of this, women in pretty big tours that are doing good business. So do you experience that still, or is that kind of, like, gone at this point?
I think, it's an interesting question. There's lots of angles that, I feel I could take it. But, I mean, I've just kind of luckily been, able to live my life to feel empowered to be able to do the things that I want to do in my life. And there has definitely been challenges where I have felt, because of how I looked, especially. I started out with pop music, so it was kind of like a hard thing to break free and tell everyone, I want to do something a little more aggressive. I don't want to just keep doing pop music when it could seem to an outsider point of view, but it's like, oh, but no, you got this going for you and this going for you. Like, you totally belong in that genre. And I'm like, I got to follow my heart. I got to do the music that means something to me, even if, it might not at first for the average person look like I should be singing in a crazy metal band. So I feel like I've been empowered enough to do that, but like, I know that not all girls feel that same sense of power to be able to take charge and do the things and come to rock shows if they want, or feel like they have enough role models where they can do and be who they want to be. So for me, just being able to do what I do it the way I want as a female. I hope other young girls that, see me play live can draw some inspiration to know that you aren't bound to any stereotypes just because of your gender. You can do what you want. So, and I mean, being on tour with Butcher is awesome. Carl and Heidi are a force to be reckoned with. They could go up against any, band out there, and they put on one hell of a show. So
yeah, I've
love my girl power.
Yeah, it's been really interesting, and like I said, I know it seems like this whole stigma behind women in hard rock or metal or whatever, while definitely a boys club, doesn't seem to be as quote unquote kind of weird or whatever as it used to be. But like I said in my chat with Lauren, she kind of was like, oh, I still, like, I used to hear the phrase like no clit in the pit and all this kind of shit, and I was like, I've never heard that before. So it was just kind of interesting to get a different take. But I mean, I saw like the photo of like Rob doing like the makeup with you and stuff like that. And so it's like, I think on these kind of tours and so forth that I'm seeing, like, I don't hear any of these things. So I've always kind of wondered, if it's still a thing. But kind of speaking to the Butcher Babies thing, talk about a band that's kind of been around for a while and been at the forefront of that kind of women in hard rock metal scene. Is there anything that you've kind of taken from Heidi and Carla specifically, like kind of taking you under your wing and being like, hey girl, like, whatever. I feel like that would be an interesting thing, because I feel like they would, more so than just about anyone else that you may have toured with, been able to kind of really give you some tips about doing this since they've done it so long from a female's perspective.
Well, I think one of the main things that you run into, especially that I felt like I related to Carla and Heidi about, is just a few handsy fans that are a little bit more, feel like they can kind of come up to you after the show and give you a kiss or a hug or get really close to you or grab your waist and stuff. And, just because, you know me and you saw me up there doesn't mean like I'm giving you at all permission to touch me in any way like that. So
right.
I've asked them for some tips on how to, you appreciate that they're a fan and they dig the music, but you want to also stand your ground and be clear that that's not the kind of thing you want. So how you deal with those situations is a bit tricky of one, because it's tough. And that's the thing with women, I find as well, like, you've been trained to make sure everyone else is comfortable. So to tell somebody like, sorry, dude, like that makes me uncomfortable, can dampen the mood. And you're like, you want all the fans to, have a good time and not get awkward, so it's kind of a delicate little tightrope walk to do sometimes, where you want to, make sure the fans feel like you appreciate them and you want them to come over and say hi, but there is a line that you shouldn't cross. And but it's nice to see a lot more often, especially in the last couple of years. I've been getting a lot of requests of people asking permission before they hug me,
awesome.
Or they ask, oh, can I put my arm around you in the photo? And I'm like, oh, that's so polite of you to actually ask me, rather than just assuming that you can just grab my waist and pull me tight to your face. You know what I mean? So it's good to see that, there's guys that have that respect to know that they just can't like assume just because, you're up on stage that you want to like fondle them and touch them and get all handsy, so.
Yeah, it's just always interesting, like my wife and I both, before we got together, one of the things we bonded over is just our love of, metal and going to shows and so forth. And so in the years, almost decade now that we've been together total, having conversations about a lot of the shows we used to go to and stuff like that, like it's just been kind of really interesting to see the slight differences in how people react. Like she was at the show the other night and she goes, I've never seen, because we've been making the comment about how kids are kind of softer now than they used to be, it seems, when you go to metal shows. And I don't know if it's, it just is what it is, I guess, from our perspective. But like I said, she was at that In This Moment show and she goes, I've never had so many women like come to my defense that I didn't need. Like, someone would bump into me on the fringe of the pit or whatever, and then someone would be like, don't touch her. Hey, sweetie, are you okay? And it's like, yeah, I'm fine. We're at a metal show on the floor. Like, shit happens. And so I was just kind of like, that's interesting. I don't think I really would have thought about how even that has changed at some of the shows either. Like, that, you go to some of these more, at least that tour, a very women-centric audience, and just the camaraderie of like looking out and making sure that like everyone's taken care of, and I guess in that regard I do enjoy that about how the times have changed in as far as the crowd goers, is that there seems to be more of a sense of making sure people are okay and asking permission for things. So I think in that regard that's super fucking sweet to hear that people aren't being weird and just touchy. Because I've definitely seen it, and it's it always is a bummer.
Yeah, for sure. And the other night we had one guy that just decided to drop his pants literally while we were like posing for a photo. And I think damn, you run into some crazy stuff on the road, let me tell you. But yeah, he eventually got kicked out and almost like plowed into our barbecue. We were barbecuing outside and almost got like total burnt. So he definitely had a little too much of whatever he was taking, and she needed to get out of there, that's for sure.
So, something I've kind of also wondered too, with you all being from Canada, like how has touring been for you? Because I know, like, you've done some European tours and stuff like that, but have you found that and I don't really ever get political on here, but in the sort of political climate we're in, have you found that touring has changed over the last little bit for you since with some of these whatever, I guess not bans, but things that are trying to be put into place. And I know some people have said touring kind of gets a little bit harder now from what I've heard, but have you found that kind of getting into the States and so forth has been any different since Trump took over at all?
Yeah, it's been fine for us. I mean, we go through the whole rigmarole to get to work permits and stuff, and it seems to be fine. Like it was really funny. Like our drummer had one charge in the States once because he was driving their tour van, and I guess they had some weird law about illegal taxiing. Oh. And because his friend like gave him gas money or something, the cop nailed him for like illegal taxiing, like something stupid like that. So every time we're at the border, he always gets pulled aside and asked about it. And once he tells them that that's what it was from, that they're always like, oh, that's funny, and they just let him go through. But other than that, it's that hasn't been hard at all. And I mean, we like to think that we could come to the States more often because we're so close. Actually, living in Southern Ontario, we're pretty close to the States, but it just so happens because of the fact that you need this whole work permit stuff that you can't just come over for like a quick show legally and make money. You have to have like the work permit like 6 months in advance or whatever. So it kind of makes it only logical for us to really come on like substantial tours versus one-offs, because it just costs so much for the work permit, which kind of sucks because we're so close. But that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I always thought that was kind of interesting because, like I said, living here in Michigan, so close to the border and so forth, it's not something I've really thought about, but I definitely know, things that are kind of getting into place. Like I have an extended license or whatever the hell it is now where I can go, and it, as long as I have this star or whatever the fuck it is on my ID, or on my driver's license, I can just, cross the border no problem. Supposedly, I haven't done it yet, but so it's been interesting just to see the different traveling stuff between here and Canada just being so close. I didn't know if that ever applied to the constant touring that you all do.
Yeah, no, we've been pretty good. I mean, we had some kind of scary stuff actually over in Europe. We just so happened, for whatever reason, we had a bunch of shows like in a series that kind of all happened after terrorist attacks had happened in those cities. So like we came to Paris like a week after Bataclan, like we were in Orlando a week before the Pulse nightclub stuff. So we've kind of felt like that has followed us around a weird little bit. And I know bands sometimes get paranoid about that stuff when you hear that stuff in the news about security and making sure, like everyone's safe at the shows. But we actually, my guitarist was driving with Chris Jericho at the time, actually, in Germany, and they got like randomly flagged because they were in a nondescript white van, and they kind of got profiled basically, and just pulled over, and like all these guns were drawn like right away, and like they had to do the whole search of the van and stuff.
That's crazy.
And once they explained that, they're like, oh, they're just musical instruments, like all good. They had to, like, what was crazy is some of them didn't have their IDs on them, so they were like Googling Chris Jericho, I think was like Googling himself. Stuff like that to prove they're like, oh, okay, like let us go, we're all good. So yeah, so there's been a few things like that, but I don't know. I actually kind of write about it a lot of the time. I think about, not letting the fear affect our lives, and to, still be free to be ourselves and do what we love, congregate and rock out together. And, as much as this tragedies happen, I hope people are afraid of coming to rock shows because we need to and support music. And, for me, it's important to, no matter what, to try to make things happen if we can, So.
Yeah, totally. Kind of wrapping this up really quickly too. So some of the when I was kind of looking at the new record that came out and looking at your guys' socials, like I was saying, I was still kind of surprised to see that you still aren't on a label. But you seem very proud of that fact, like when it says like on your Facebook like label and it's like independent and like 3 or 4 exclamation points. So I mean, how is it to still kind of be an independent band? And it seems like you wear that with like a very special sense of pride. Like, we're doing all of this, and we don't have anyone really backing us.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a long story, so it's hard to wrap this up at the end of the interview, but like I was signed at 14 to Capitol Records, and I went through a lot of stuff in my teen years with, major record label situations, and everything kind of spiraled and ended really badly in the end, where there was, music that I had recorded that hadn't been released, and there was lawsuits, and it just put a kind of a bad taste in my mouth for the fact that, I just wanted to play music, and I just wanted to be able to express myself in my art. So I kind of started Sumo Cyco almost in a rebellion of making sure that I could do what I wanted. And, that's why we kind of do our own music videos. We do everything as our creative expression without feeling like we have to, abide by any rules. So up to this point, I'm not totally anti-label. I just feel like it's really important to be completely ourselves and be in control. And if a label's going to hinder that, then I don't want it to be a part of that. So if we find partners that we work with, they got to understand what we do and what we like and where we want to go. And we're always the captains of the ship. So, but yeah, up to this point, like, I just feel like we pretty much, do what a label does, apart from maybe having some of the connections to get into some of like the bigger festivals and stuff. But like, as far as, promotion, we do our own social media, we do our own videos, we run our own online store. We're very proud of the fact that we've learned throughout the years how to do everything pretty much ourselves. So yeah, I do wear it as a bit of a badge of honor for sure.
That's awesome. I just don't see a lot of people seemingly want to say that it's because of them being an independent that, they don't get all the breaks and so forth. So it was kind of refreshing to see, you all that are, getting on really good tours and basically doing it, and the fact that you're still independent. So I thought that was, really commendable and really awesome. So
thanks, man.
So kind of the last question I always end these with before I have you plug your socials is I always like to end these episodes out to a song. So what would you like me to play it out to, and maybe give a little story as to why?
Yeah, one of our tracks.
Could be any song. Could be a song that y'all have been jamming on the drives or whatever.
Yeah, I think we should, especially if we're new to people, maybe give them a little taste of Sumo Cyco. So let's do our new track. It's called Undefeated. This track, the music video was filmed within a few days, and it was a snowstorm. So it's kind of fun if you guys want to check out the video. Also features some masks that were made by a fan that sent them all the way from California to be in the video, which was awesome. Shout out to Glenn. Yeah, Undefeated basically is kind of what we were talking about there with being independent. It's about going through all the ups and downs and the roller coaster of being in a band, trying to survive as musicians, and still standing strong at the end of it and being proud of what you do. And that's kind of what Undefeated is all about. So check that out. And I'll jump right into our socials if that's what you want.
Yeah.
Okay, so if anybody wants to check us out online, like I said, our music videos are a really great place to start. We direct and produce them all, and they even run into each other and have some storylines and themes in between the albums. So I'd highly recommend you guys check that out over at Sumo Cyco's YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Sumo Cyco, SUMOCYCO. All of our socials end in Sumo Cyco. So you could Twitter us, you could Snapchat us, or Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff is just SUMOCYCO. And yeah, check it out. Hopefully everyone digs. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, and they can find you for about another month out on the Kings and Queens tour again with Nonpoint and Butcher Babies. What's up for the band after this tour is wrapped up?
I think we're gonna head back in the studio. I think we're gonna write some more. It's been a little over a year since we put out music, the last record. So I think we want to just get a head start, making sure we got some new stuff for those fans out there. And I think usually when we're on the road for this long, you kind of feel you get the bug where you want to get back in the studio and write some stuff now that we're so inspired being out with the fans and stuff. So yeah, you can look forward to maybe some new music videos and music coming up soon.
That's awesome. Well, again, thank you for your time, and enjoy the sold-out Machine Shop show tonight.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, John. I appreciate you spreading the word for us. We do appreciate it. Have a great day.
You as well. So that was my chat with Skye Sweetnam of Sumo Cyco. Want to thank her again for taking the time out of her busy day gearing up for a sold-out show at the Machine Shop and taking the time to talk to me for a little while about a lot of things, really. I mean, I know it is kind of cliche to ask, a woman in a metal band, what's it like being a woman in a metal band? But, for me, that's not something I grew up experiencing, and I think everyone's story is different. I think, her story compared to Laura Cashin's is different, but the thing that I do like hearing, and like I kind of brought up in the conversation itself, was, my wife having been gone to a lot of hardcore shows and metal shows and so forth, it's been nice to see that there's more camaraderie and more not so, well, you're a woman and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you're just another person here at this metal show. However, I'm going to look out for you to make sure no one's fucking with you because that's shitty. That's one thing that I always enjoyed growing up in the hardcore metal scene was that we seem to kind of take a special sense of pride in taking care of the women that enjoy going to these shows and making sure that there aren't fucking assholes doing anything to them. And if there are, then, it kind of gets dealt with in its own way. But it's, it was interesting to, kind of to recount Laura Cashin from Sharp Tooth's experience growing up in the metal and hardcore scene and hearing how it differed for Skye. And I think that's why I kind of enjoy having, women on this podcast. I'd like to have more on just to kind of get a completely different perspective, like I said, than what I grew up having. And it's really awesome to hear, like she was saying that, sometimes there's still some fans that get a little handsy, but more often than not lately, some guys are coming up and asking for a photo and going, hey, is it okay if I, put my hand here or whatever? And I think that's great. I think it's great to hear. And I think it's kind of refreshing to hear that there are people being forthcoming with, asking what is okay and what's not. So it was really fun hearing that and hearing, just the sense of pride that Skye and the rest of Sumo Cyco takes in being an independent band in 2018. A lot of bands feel the need that, you got to get signed in order to get on certain tours or to do these certain things. And it's great to see Sumo Cyco enjoying the success that they have over this past year, being an independent band and just kind of doing things on their own. So I think that's really commendable, and I think there's a lot that younger up-and-coming bands can look to what they're doing and realize that maybe you don't need a big label behind you or anything like that. It's just a matter about just like your music and getting out there. You got to do that on all facets of the industry, putting out music videos and doing everything else. And, like I said, it's just really great to see Sumo Cyco and a band of their caliber and at the level they're at doing it all DIY. Like, it's really refreshing and great to see. Gonna kind of keep everything short as the running theme, lately, because I don't know. I've been trying to figure out what the happy medium is between these intros and outros and what's enough being said and what people don't want to fucking hear me talking anymore. So, gonna get to the socials. So if you would like to follow Sumo Cyco, it's really, really easy across all the socials. It's at Sumo Cyco. That's right, SUMOCYCO on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you would like to follow Skye on Instagram, it is Skye, SKYE.Sweetnam, SWEETNAM. And on Twitter, it is simply Skye Sweetnam, all one word. There's seemingly been an issue with fake profiles on Instagram. She's pretty good at making sure that you're not being followed or contacted by the false profiles. And there were quite a bit on Facebook as well, so I'm not exactly sure which one is the right one, but I'm sure if you follow one and kind of see that it ends up posting, there's fake profiles, whatever, that's probably the right Skye Sweetnam. They are currently wrapping up the Kings and Queens tour with Nonpoint and Butcher Babies and Islander. As of the date I'm recording this, there is about 3 or 4 dates left. And as you heard, that they are hoping to go back and start writing some new stuff and all that. Maybe there's some couple more tours left on this album cycle. Not entirely sure, but you can always keep up with all their socials and follow them, and they will keep you up to date with any shows and touring opportunities to catch them. If you would like to follow our partners at Moshpit Nation, you can do such at moshpitnation.com. That is the home to this website. You can also go and follow them on Facebook at Moshpit Nation West, capital M-I. Twitter and Instagram are simply Moshpit Nation. And if you would like to follow me and what I'm doing, you can do such over on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Johnson Title Podcast. You can tweet at me at Johnson Title Pod and email me at johnsonTitlePod@gmail.com. The website of mine, johnsonstitlepod.com. For all intents and purposes, it's basically live. It's still kind of a work in progress, but if you want to go over there, check out what it looks like, go ahead. Let me know what you think, if there's something that you like about some other websites, and give me some feedback. Having a friend do this, and I didn't really exactly know what I wanted the website to look like, but I always welcome for some extra input to make something better for you, the listeners, you, the people who are supporting this podcast. Speaking of supporting the podcast, however you listen to this podcast, like any other podcast, rating, reviewing, subscribing. Those are the three things that everyone always asks you to do, and I'm going to as well. I've been kind of intermittent about remembering to do it, but let's be real. Everyone says it. I figure it's something that every podcast needs to do. So however you are listening to this, whether it be on Apple Podcasts, formerly iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, any of those things. However you're listening to this, subscribe to it, rate it, leave me comments. Good, bad, or indifferent, everything helps. At least, even if it's bad information or not bad information, even if it's bad reviews, at least I can learn from that and try to make this as best as I can, because that is the whole thing that I'm trying to do. I have fun doing these chats, but I want you to enjoy them, and I don't know how to do that if you don't let me. So do all of that. And we have some sponsors coming up as well. I'm going to go ahead and announce one of them. It is Bean Bastard Coffee. Nicholas Maruso, drummer for It Dies Today, started a coffee company called the Bean Bastard, and it's been kind of fun seeing him have fun following a new passion, and the levels of success that he's already enjoyed with it, and the fun ways that he kind of ties some of his love for movies and pop culture stuff into naming the coffees themselves, and I'm eagerly awaiting my care package of these coffees to come in. You will be seeing plenty of photos, I'm sure, of me with these coffees. And so excited to have Bean Bastard on. I will get a discount code here soon enough. So when you start seeing these things, you will get a discount code to be able to go and buy some of this coffee, and maybe it'll be your new routine every morning. Bean Bastard coffee. So with that, I'm going to end this episode as we always do with a song, and as you heard Skye say, she wanted me to play it out to Undefeated by Sumo Cyco. And like she said, go check out the video. The band takes a lot of pride in making videos and having a strong online presence even on YouTube with their music videos and so forth. So go check it out. And without further ado, this is going to be Sumo Cyco with Undefeated. Talk to you next week.